You mean here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can do. I mean, yeah. You mean like right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. My name is Reggie Watts, and I am a composer, sometimes comedian, sometimes actor, theater, performer, pastiche person. Here we go. So that's the first loop. Can add some bass. I've always been interested in technology. Yeah, gadgets and doodads, whiz-bangs even. And I can find another synthesizer sound. Technology's always influenced me in the way that you can make music. Like, how can you make machines create really interesting art? Growing up, I made music primarily just on piano and singing and violin, so it's pretty rudimentary. But I grew up in what I like to call the perfect technology curve, where it's like as a kid I had organic instruments. There wasn't a lot of like super high-tech stuff. All the super high-tech stuff would have been way too expensive. Like the idea of a synthesizer, owning a synthesizer in 1980 was like insane, you know, like for a kid. So then technology started trickling down and things started to become smaller and more powerful and started diversifying as soon as things became a little bit more electronic and digital. I had a Casio keyboard and that was awesome, and I got to do a lot of weird stuff with that and experiment with that and like figure out ways to make it do things that it wasn't designed to do. So I feel like I got to experience enough of the organic technologies first, and then the crossover into the more complex, like from analog to digital. I was basically I crossed right over into that zone. So I know both worlds. Limitations are great because it increases your ability to make interesting things. You know, the limitations create more possibilities. So everything fits in my backpack, and that's my setup, and that's kind of my rule. So whatever, if anything else comes along, it would have to fit in my backpack. Right, but you can't yourself in the form as I say. You try and loud, but you can't withstand. I don't rehearse, so I just show up for shows and perform. The stage is where I figure out stuff for sure, because there's the right amount of ingredients, you know, pressure and pterodactyls. Yeah, pressure and pterodactyls. There's a good ratio of pressure to pterodactyls on stage. Sometimes I'll just talk and do kind of a stand-up bit or some dumb random thing, and then I'll cue up a song. I'll say like, oh, I'm going to do this song, and I usually describe what the song is about. Sometimes what I describe is what the song is about. Most of the time it's not. And then I go and I improvise a song, doing a bunch of stuff with my voice, sometimes adding synthesizer. Then I go over to the Nord Electro, I sit down and I improvise a song. It's just a bunch of improvising with these three areas that I can improvise in. The thing about like trying to improvise performance, you know, on video, and then watching it later is that sometimes there is a lot of magic that's lost, and people definitely will say a recording just isn't the same as being at your live show. I think if the song's good and it's recorded well, I think it can definitely sound great. I mean, we have decades of jam band recordings that, you know, can attest to the quality of improvised experiences. I was always afraid. I was like sensitive to the fact that because I have some gear on stage and I'm doing music in a comedy situation, that people would think that it was like a crutch or that I'm like using it as a gimmick or whatever. But I think it's just so natural for me to do what I did. I never really had any resistance. I mean, I was luckily very warmly received by the comedy community. But, you know, I was like starting out at Rafifi, which was like, you know, the magical land of weirdos, you know, so they recognized me as a fellow weirdo, and so, you know, there was like a long lost family. That's an example.
Yeah.
That's my friend Anne. That's her example. Anne's example.